Yeah, hi everyone. We are back again with another insightful session for all of you. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all those who've joined us from across the world. I'm Manish Krishnan, Head of Marketing here at QKS Group, and I welcome you all to today's session on Zero Trust in the Age of AI, Securing Identity, Access, and Autonomous Agents. Once again, thank you all for joining us. For those who joined us last week, our session on the Cyber Resilience Framework, a seven-pillar blueprint for board-ready security transformation. Welcome you back. Well, in this webinar, we explore how organizations can strengthen cyber resilience through governance, operational readiness, and board level security strategies. But well, today, we are building on that foundation by focusing on one most critical security challenge emerging in the age of AI. As organizations rapidly adopt Gen AI, co-pilots, autonomous agents, and intelligent automation, the enterprise identity parameter is expanding beyond people and devices, including even AI-driven identity capable of making decisions and taking actions on behalf of users. This evolution demands a new approach to zero trust, one that extends governance, least privilege, and continuous verification across human, machines, and AI entities. In today's session, we'll explore how security leaders can modernize their zero trust strategy, secure AI-driven workflows, manage identity risk, and build governance models that supports responsible AI adoption without compromising security. Well, I'm pleased to introduce you to our speakers today, Dr. Andrew Akin, Vice President and Principal Advisor. He's a cybersecurity expert with over 30 years of experience. Along with him, we have Sophia, Associate Director and Principal Advisor. Together, they will share practical insights drawn from enterprise advisory engagement, market research, and real-world zero trust implementations to help organizations prepare for the next generation of AI-driven security challenges. We encourage any questions raised to be put in the drop and in the Q&A section below, and we'll surely address those towards the end of the session. With that, over to you, Andrew.
Welcome, and thank you for joining this QKS Group webinar on Zero Trust in the Age of AI. Hey, Sophia and I. Say hi, Sophia.
Hi.
Well, we're going to be discussing or focusing on a practical problem that is quickly becoming strategic. AI agents are not just content generation tools. They can retrieve enterprise data, invoke tools, trigger processes, interact with applications, and act under delegated authority. That changes identity and access risk. It also changes how we should think about zero trust. This is not a theoretical look at cybersecurity. Instead, we're going to help you understand the new risk model, prioritize the controls that matter most, and translate zero trust principles into an operating model for human users, machine identities, service accounts, co-pilots, and autonomous agents. We will also discuss where QKS Group believes organizations should assess readiness before they begin scaling agentic AI adoption. Next. So the core premise for this session is simple. The identity perimeter has changed. Historically, zero trust programs focused on users, devices, networks, applications, workloads, and data. Those are still critical. But AI agents introduce a new category of actor. They can operate inside business workflows, use delegated authority, call APIs, retrieve sensitive data, and act across multiple systems. That means our access decision cannot stop at whether an entity has been authenticated. We need to ask whether the agent identity is known, whether the delegated authority is appropriate, whether the data being retrieved matches the business purpose, whether the tool should be allowed to take an action, whether the response boundary is safe, and whether the action should require human approval. In the age of AI, zero trust becomes a continuous governance model for decisions, actions, and outcomes.
Yeah. So, thanks for the introduction, Andrew, and hello everyone. So, for today's session, we will cover five key areas. So, first, we will discuss on how AI is changing the meaning of identity. So, as Andrew has mentioned, that earlier identity mostly meant human users, but now AI agents, co pilots, bots, APIs, and machine identities are becoming the access actors inside the enterprise. Then we have a look into the new risk pattern that CISO must understand. So these will include dedicated authority, misuse of AI tool, prompt manipulation, memory poisoning, and lack of visibility into what agents are doing. So I think we can move to next slide. Yeah. So third, we will discuss on zero trust control for AI agents by giving agent minimum required access using short-lived credentials, continuously verifying actions and reinforcing policies at every step. And fourth, we will cover the governance and operating model in which organization build a clear ownership, access reviews, lifecycle management, audit trials, and human oversight for AI agents and machine identities. And finally, we will talk about implementation role that Andrew was mentioning about, and this will help organizations access the readiness, prioritize use cases, integrate the right control, and measure progress over the time. So, to start with the next slide, I will talk about why this matters now. So, because of AI, everything is changing at a speed and at a scale, and security is being at a risk. So, with this, the threat cycle are becoming faster. It may AI makes it easier for attackers to discover, prepare, and scale their attacks. Then we see that workflows are becoming more autonomous. AI agents can plan action, collect information, use tools, various tools, and step across different steps. Then we have this identity, and which is now becoming more complex. So previously it was only about the human maintaining the identity of human, doing governance, doing protection, and securing and providing access to those things. But now it's no longer only humans, it's about accessing systems. So machine services, APIs, and AI agents are also acting as identity is in today's current organizations. Then finally, the rate becoming bigger. If an AI agent has too much access, it can misuse that access very quickly and create serious business impact. So this was regarding why this matters now. And with the next slide, we'll talk about how and why agentic AI is different from traditional software. So when we talk about traditional software, usually it focuses uh, the rules. It follows a fixed rule maybe, and it works only when a user gives a clear command, and it processes is mostly predictable and not very proactive kind of thing. Then we introduce AI and co-pilot things that are different because they can generate content, summarize information, and use different context, but they usually still a user. Then we have agentic AI that go one step further. They can plan multi-step tasks, call tools or APIs, remember context, coordinate with other agents, and act with delegated authorities. And so, with this, the access risk is no longer only about who has access. Organization also need to understand why the access is being used, what tool is being used, what action is being taken, and what outcome is created with all these AI tools and AI agents. So, yeah. With this, we will talk about the first part of this webinar, which is on the new identity and access risk model. So, in this section, we will look at how identity and access risk is changing because of AI agent. Earlier, access was mainly about human users, login failures, but now AI agents can act on behalf of users, use different tools, remember context, and execute multiple steps across system. So the risk is only who logged in. The bigger question is what authority was delegated, what tool were used, what context were applied, and what actions were completed. So with this, the traditional access models become insufficient, and we need to do things differently for accessing these kind of AI models or agentic AIs. So first is access control, which is too static because agent makes the decision based on changing context. Applications permissions are often too broad, so one connector may expose more data than needed. Then there is session checks that are also not enough because approving access only at the start does not capture what new risk later in the workflow can happen. And also logs often fragmented because agents and the actions that they are doing may happen across multiple tools or APIs or systems. So the organization needs access control that are more dynamic, continuous, and context aware to protect these kind of agents, to protect these kind of systems. Then with the next slide, we talk about what are the 5 risk patterns to plan for the organizations. So here the list of 5 major risk pattern organizations should plan for. So the first is about prompt or instruction manipulation. So here malicious inputs can influence how an agent behaves. The second is about tool and resource misuse, where legitimate tools are changed together in a way that creates unauthorized outcomes. Then there is privilege abuse, where agents with broad or inherent access can create bigger impact than expected. And the memory of or text poisoning, where the wrong or malicious information affects future agent decision. And the fifth is about the supply chain exposure, where models, tools, plugin packages, or third-party components increase the attack surface. So the key point here is simple. Even a valid AI agent can still produce unsafe actions. So with this, we will move to and talk about the practical government guidance lens. And this slide gives a practical way to manage agentic AI risks. So organizations should AI agent carefully and avoid giving broad access to sensitive data or critical systems. Then they should control what agents are allowed to do by setting clear objectives, do not do rules or fail safe defaults, and human approved points for high impact action. Then we have they can also need to secure the full life cycle from design and identity control to monitoring and incident response. And then we have third party components that should be verified, approved. Tools should be used, and the tools activity should be logged every minute or every events. Then there is organization should monitor agent behavior before scaling autonomy, because agentic systems are complex and failure can spread quickly across connected systems. So these were some of the lens or practical guidance to the agentic AI risk. And for the second part of this webinar is regarding the zero trust, and that must be governed in every identity type. So in this section, the message is simple. Zero trust should not apply only to human users. It must also apply to machine services, APIs, and AI agents. Then for every identity, organization need to verify who or what is acting, validate the context, limit privileges, and control action or audit outcomes. So for AI agents, the question is not only is the identity valid, the bigger question is about is this action safe, necessary, and allowed in this context. So with this slide, we will talk about the least privilege, which is necessary, but least agency is the next layer we see in the market. So the least privilege means an identity, only the minimum access it needed. It is still very important for user services, workload, and agents. But when we talk about AI agents, access control alone is not enough. We need least agency. So what does this least agency means? So it majorly limits what the agent can actually do. It controls the tools, the agent, what the agent can use, and how often it can use them, in what context and within what boundaries. So the goal is not to excess. The goal is to make unsafe action impossible, or at least very tightly controlled. So this is how the least agency layer is important in protecting the AI agents nowadays. So moving to next slide, we will have how to treat agent as governed identities. So AI agent should be managed like formal enterprise. And for the first point, organization should register every agent, connector, model, and sub-agent. So there is a trusted inventory within the organization. Second is they bind each agent's unique identity with clear credential and role ownership. The third is about the scope of each agent, least privilege and agency based on approved task, data, and time limit. The fourth is about certifying access regularly through reviews, owner approval, and exceptional handling. And finally, when the access is no longer needed, it should be retired through a proper revocation, decommissioning, and evidence retention. So the core principle here is if an agent cannot identified, scoped, audited, and retired, it should not get enterprise authority. And with the next slide, there is the thing that we want to do is authorize every meaningful action and not just the session. So traditional access model often approve access at the start of the session, but for AI agents, this is not enough. So some access remain static for narrow and low risk tasks, but more sensitive action need dynamic access. Then dynamic access means permission should change based on the request, resource sensitivity, and risk. And for the higher action, organization should use just in time or just enough access. This means access is granted only when needed, only for the required task, and it expires automatically. And most importantly, it should be continuously evaluated as context, behavior, and threat signal whenever it changes. So these were mostly about how to authorize and provide meaningful action to the AI agents. And yeah, with this slide, we will talk about how to secure agent to system and agent to agent interaction. So with AI agents, will not work alone. They will interact with system, API, tools, and other agents as well. So to secure this interaction, organization need a trusted registry of approval agents, tool connector versions, and identities. And they also need a tool to allow list so agent can only call approved tools under documented policies. Then there should be roles should be separated. For example, the agent that reads data should not automatically be the same agent that executes action. For moderate high risk action, organization should use risk-based approvals, either through human approval or multi-agent validation. And finally, all handoffs should be logged, including delegated chains, tool calls, messages, and results. So with the next slide, we will talk about how to control data, retrieval, and memory. So AI agent depends heavily on big data, retrieval, and memory. So these area need strong control. So for data access, organization should classify data, understand sensitivity, and restrict retrieval to only the minimum required sources. For RAG pipelines, should be validated, vector stores should be monitored, and untrusted content should not automatically become trusted content. Then there is agent memory that should be controlled. Memory should be separated by users, task, and sensitivity. So one session does not carry risk or risky privilege or context into other session. And input and output also need control. External content should be treated as unstructured, and sensitive output should be filtered or required approval. And for important decision involving customers, legal, finance, or production system, human in the loop approval should remain mandatory, even though the AI agents are doing their work and providing agentic AI kind of capabilities. So yeah, this was about the data and control thing. So with observability, that creates accountability. So for AI agent, visibility is very important because action can happen across many tools and systems. So organization need logging to capture two calls, data access, external communication, policy decision, and response action. They need a traceability, so every request be linked to the agent identity, human authority, task context, input, output, and final outcome. The baseline is also needed to understand normal behavior and detect drift, anomalies, or unexpected actions. The minimum evidence should answer which agent acted under whose authority and what task, what data was touched, what tool was called, and what decision path was followed, and what outcome was created. So, with the next slide, we have graduated autonomy. So, what does this mean? So, an AI agent should not receive full autonomy from day one. Autonomy should increase only when trust and confidence are earned. So, at the first level, the agent only assists. It gives read only recommendation and human execute the action. At the next level, the agent guide decision, but human approval is still required. And then the agent will execute low risk, pre approved action within a narrow scope with full rollback of. Then after that, autonomy can be bounded through policy enforcement and continuous monitoring. And only at the most mature stage should the agent receive adaptive autonomy, where authority change and dynamically based on the risk that has been happening. Uh, the key point here is if unexpected behavior appears, the organization should reduce autonomy or revoke privilege immediately. And this was regarding the graduated autonomy. And with this, I would like to hand over the slide to Andrew to move to the part 3.
Thank you, Sophia. Now, absolutely critical for a successful enterprise transformation is having a comprehensive roadmap and specific targets for determining whether its implementation was successful. So at QKS Group, we frame this as a secure enterprise transformation maturity solution. Zero trust initiatives stall or fail when organizations treat them as a product purchase instead of a maturity journey. The same is true for AI agent security. The technology matters, but the real work is aligning leadership, data, architecture, workflows, culture, governance, and value measurement. The 7 capability pillars help leaders to ask whether the organization is ready to adopt AI agents safely. Do we have executive ownership? Is our data classified and governed? Are identity and access controls mature? Are workflows documented and automation ready? Are people trained to supervise AI-enabled processes? Are governance decisions clear? Are we measuring value and risk reduction? Now, the implementation phase, diagnose, align, architect, govern, execute, and scale will give CISOs a practical path to move from aspiration to controlled adoption. Next. Now, a common mistake is to treat AI agent security as a standalone platform category. Instead, the controls need to extend the existing stack. So IAM provides identity authentication and conditional access. PAM manages high-risk elevation and privileged tool use. IGA provides ownership, certification, lifecycle, and access review. Zero trust network access and segmentation limit where agents can connect. Cloud and SaaS controls manage workload identity and connector scope. Data security governs what agents can retrieve and output. SOC and SIM workflows provide logging, tracing, anomaly detection, and response. And AI governance supplies business policy, exception management, accountability, and value measurement. For many organizations, the most important first step is mapping where agent authority already crosses these existing control planes and identifies gaps in visibility, enforcement, and accountability. The maturity model helps executives and architects prioritize. The foundation is no longer weak controls. For agentic AI, the foundation floor is higher. Known inventory, cryptographically rooted identities, deny by default roles, short-lived credentials, basic action logs, and sandboxed low-risk pilots. Enterprise maturity adds certificate lifecycle management, attribute-based policy, dynamic privilege, identity-based isolation, immutable audit trails, and distributed tracing across multi-agent workflows. And the advanced maturity is appropriate for highly regulated, sensitive, or high-impact use cases. This includes hardware-backed identity, continuous authorization, just-in-time and just-enough administration, confidential computing or stronger isolation, full provenance chains, and adaptive autonomy. So the point is to align control maturity with risk. A chatbot that drafts internal meeting notes does not need the same controls as an agent that can approve payments, change cloud configuration, or trigger incident response actions. Next. So the metrics should show whether the program is actually controlling risk. Inventory coverage tells you whether the organization knows which agents, co-pilots, bots, APIs, connectors, and service identities exist. Privileged AI exposure shows how many AI systems can touch sensitive data, production systems, or privileged tools. The policy enforcement rate distinguishes enforceable controls from policy documents. Orphaned identity risk measures unmanaged or ownerless machine and agent identity. Connection visibility shows whether agent to application and agent to agent paths are visible. Human approval quality matters because a checkbox approval with no context is not meaningful oversight. Containment readiness measures how quickly the organization can revoke access, disable a connector, rotate credentials, and contain the blast radius. Finally, zero trust workflow coverage shows how much of the AI operating model is protected by least privilege, least agency, monitoring, and auditability. Roadmap should be practical and prioritized by dependencies and return on investment. So in the first 90 days, we should focus on visibility and risk triage, inventory AI usage, and agent-like automations. Map privilege connections and data reach. Identify low-risk pilot use cases, and define approval boundaries and accountable owners. Over the next 180 days, control and integration will become the focus. Build an agent identity registry. Move away from long-lived secrets. Implement short-lived credentials. Add logging and traceability, and connect agent access governance into IAM, PAM, IGA, ZTNA, cloud, data security, and SOC workflow. And then within 365 days, the program should be scaling with maturity. Expand attribute-based access control. Add dynamic privilege. Use graduated autonomy. Define rollback triggers. Test incident response for agent compromise, and report progress through an executive scorecard. This sequence helps organizations move fast without pretending that immature controls are ready for high-risk autonomy. Now, a few pitfalls appear repeatedly. The first is scaling before inventory. If the organization cannot identify agents, connectors, models, tools, and delegated authority paths, it is not ready to scale or roll out. The second is approving broad access once and then forget about it. Agent access must be task scoped, time bound, and reevaluated as context changes. Third, AI governance often remains policy only. Now, policy matters, but without enforceable controls and evidence trails, it does not reduce operational risk. Fourth, culture and adoption are often underestimated. People need training to supervise AI, challenge outputs, escalate uncertainty, and validate consequential actions. And finally, many programs measure activity. Did I complete this task? Instead of outcomes. Leaders need to know whether the blast radius is shrinking, detection and containment are improving, productivity is increasing, and how much risk is being reduced. So let's summarize the key takeaways. First, AI agents should be treated as identities. They need owners, lifecycle processes, scoped privileges, and accountability. Second, access decisions must include actions. Authentication is not enough when agents can retrieve data, invoke tools, and trigger workflows. Third, least agency extends least privilege. We need to limit what each tool can do, how often it can do it, where it can do it, when it can do it, and under which approved boundary. Fourth, observability is evidence. Organizations need logs, traces, and behavior monitoring that can reconstruct the full chain from input to outcome. And finally, autonomy should scale through maturity. Start with a readiness assessment and controlled pilots. Integrate governance and technical controls, and then expand authority only when the evidence and outcome supports it. Next. So, QKS's recommendation is to assess readiness before scaling autonomy. We're offering each of you a free AI readiness benchmark or assessment, leading to a complimentary advisory workshop. The purpose is to diagnose maturity across identity, data, governance, workflows, technology, and value realization. It helps prioritize where agentic AI can create the most value and where exposure is too high for immediate autonomy. It also helps leadership create a practical roadmap for zero trust modernization, AI governance, and control integration. The key question is not simply whether the organization can deploy agents. The better question is, where can the organization safely create measurable value with controls it can prove? That is the difference between innovation theater and a successful and secure enterprise transformation.
Yeah. So thanks for the insights, Andrew. So with this slide, we will like to talk about QKS Group's AI Readiness Assessment, which is backed by more than a decade of benchmarking experience. And we have benchmarked 350 plus enterprises across industries covering 18 plus countries and delivered 100 plus boardroom ready benchmarks and bring 10 plus years of research depth. So, as part of this initiative, we are offering a free AI readiness assessment. This will help organizations understand their AI maturity across 7 key capabilities pillar that Andrew has touched upon and compare their readiness with industry peers. So, along with this, We offer a 1 hour of executive workshop, which is led by former CAIOs and CISOs. This session will help leadership team understand their current AI capability, deployment maturity, and governance gap within their security landscape. And the key outcome is simple here. The organization's clear diagnostic view of where they stand today and what they need to do to get into the next scale of AI efficiency and maturity within their security landscape. So, moving to the next and the last slide for this presentation. So, before making any major transformation decision, whether it is platform selection, MDR engagement, or an internal AI transformation initiatives, so we request organization to first assess their readiness across 7 key pillars. This will help a leadership team understand where they are strong, where the gaps exist, and what should be prioritized before engaging with vendors or investing into further tools. So you can scan the code to begin the assessment and connect with QKS Group for structure, AI readiness, and security resilience readiness review and a complimentary advisory workshop. So, the objective here is to make your next transformation decision more informed, measurable, and aligned with the business outcome. So, thank you for your time, and I will hand it over to Anish. Um, Anish, you are on mute, I guess.
Yeah, thanks for handling that, Sophia. And thanks, Sophia, and thanks, Andrew. To all those who are watching us today, this is an exclusive offer from QKS side. If you are traveling, if you're listening to us while traveling, if you're on a different devices, feel free to take a screenshot of this and go through our assessment during your free time. And the one-time offer that we are having for all our viewers today. With that, as we conclude today's session, I would like to sincerely thank all of you who joined us today and be a part of today's discussion. Well, today's conversation highlighted that in the age of AI, zero trust must evolve beyond traditional identity and access management. And as AI agents become active participants in enterprise workflows, organization must extend governance continuously for verification and at least privilege and least privilege principles across humans, machines, and AI entities to build a secure, resilient enterprise. A special thanks to Andrew and Sophia for sharing your valuable insights and walking us through that quick insights that you had for all of us today. Well, your guidance in modernizing zero trust strategies for AI driven environment has been very valuable for our viewers in the past years. And to all our attendees, thank you for your time. As we continue the cybersecurity series, we invite all of you to join our upcoming webinar where again, Andrew and Sophia will be taking us through the autonomous SOC, uh, AI-driven operation as the engine of cyber resilience. Well, in this session, they'll explore how AI is transforming cyber security operation centers, enabling faster threat detection, intelligent response, and a greater cyber resilient through autonomous security operations. Do stay updated to our latest research, insights, and all our upcoming webinars. We look forward to having you all in our future sessions. Thank you once again and have a great